Welcome to the Awaken on Purpose podcast, where each week I share insight, inspiration, and advice for quantum leaping into new levels of expansion in your purpose and mission as a visionary leader and wayshower. You'll also hear from other new paradigm leaders who share their inspirational stories and wisdom. If you're passionate about embodying your highest destiny and leading others through this great awakening into the next golden age, this show is for you. Hi, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome as a guest to the show today, Mary Welp. She is a certified hypnotherapist specializing in hypnotic meditation. Welcome, Mary. So excited to have you.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. I love talking about RISE, so I'm always happy to answer these calls.
Yes, for sure. Mary, we would love to hear more about the work you're doing and what inspired you to do it.
Well, I've been doing body work for 20 years. I started as a craniosacral therapist and then got my hypnotherapy license and have been marrying those two therapies with people one-on-one for 20 years. When the pandemic happened, we kind of stopped with the one-on-one. My office closed. I still have a lot more to give and started to think about how I could continue my work now that life has changed a little bit. So this is a therapy that I've been doing with my clients. It's teaching them self-hypnosis, but as a meditation practice. So every day you kind of can go in, doesn't take very long, 5-10 minutes, and follow the progression of the 4 steps. RISE is an acronym. So it's relax, imagine, suggest, empower. And so it allows you to work with something in your life that you want to shift, an energy, whether you need more boundaries in your life or whether you're looking for a little more patience, whether there's an emotional issue that you'd like to address, or a physical one. This therapy has a way of working into the subconscious to kind of shift the way that we're programmed. So I know I have often in life come up against something where I wonder, well, why am I doing it that way? Why? What is the pattern? Why? And I realize I'm ready to let it go. So RISE is a way you can do that. I also use it every night just to kind of clear the day, kind of wipe the hard drive clean and to start the next day fresh, to kind of maybe make a little bit smaller the disappointments of the day and to maybe make a little bit larger the things that went well, the things that made me happy, the things that felt emotionally empowering and strong.
So awesome. I know for me, many years ago, I mean, it's been quite a while at this point, but when I was initially focused on my spiritual path and my growth path, meditation served as a tremendous gateway for me to start to shift some of that, subconscious programming that you refer to. What do you find? So, I mean, there is the first step, right, which is really awareness. When an issue or whatever it is that someone's challenged with comes to their attention. What do you find are the biggest challenges for people to actually shift that, right? Because there's meditation and that's bringing about the awareness, but how are they shifting it?
Well, the suggest stage is there's several ways to do it. You can do it through affirmation. You can do it through visualization, often seeing your block as a physical object that you shift or you change. You kick it off a mountaintop or bury it in the ground. Using story, we tell ourselves stories. We live in story. So kind of creating a story about how to shift that energy. And then when you relax very deeply, it kind of gets that block out of the way that says, oh, I can't do this. Because we also limit ourselves with our thinking. We tell ourselves we can't do this. I can't, I need to do it this way. Or, I've always done it this way, or if I don't worry about it, who will? We tell ourselves these stories that I think once we realize the story, we're ready to shift it because we're recognizing it as an energy. I think it's the things that we don't recognize that are really the struggles that take a little bit longer, because some of these things take time. They take layers to take off. You know, there's the talk about finding yourself, which is not really finding yourself. It's kind of peeling away the layers of what culture has taught us and what imprints have taught us and what our fears have taught us, and giving those things opportunities to reframe them as something different.
Yeah, definitely. What happens when telling oneself a new story impacts other people?
Oh, that's just the best. Yeah. I didn't really realize that until I started down my own healing journey, but it really shifted my family. And it was nothing we ever spoke about. It was nothing ever verbalized, but the energy in the family shifted and settled. So I think when we change the way we think and we change our priorities, when we become a little more optimistic, a little less negative, a little less hard on ourselves, that really does resonate out into the world. We have a little more patience with the checkout line at the grocery store. We have a little more patience with our children. You know, we have patience with ourselves, because I think we really give ourselves a hard time. I think we tell ourselves things we would never tell our best friend. You know, we would never be as hard on anyone else in our lives as we can be on ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bring up the question as well because sometimes someone can have an awareness around something, but maybe be hesitant to change the story for fear of judgment or fear of what other people
Absolutely.
might think.
Yes. But I think it's you doing it for yourself. You know, I
It's
think
true.
if
Yes.
the purpose is, you know, the effect is it will change the world. It will change your world. It will
Mhm.
change, you know, you have a new vibration, you have a new optimism, you have a new lightness about you. So that can't help but affect others. But if you're doing it for others, it's that's a challenge. You know, it's not authentic. You know,
Yeah.
doing it for yourself allows you to be more present for other people, allows you to understand their struggles and be a little bit more compassionate and empathetic, because you've realized the pain in your life
Mhm.
and tried to work with that. And I think so much of this is awareness.
Yeah, awareness
Um,
is a huge component of
isn't
that
it
for
though?
sure. It really is. Uh, who who are your soulmate clients? That's what I like to refer to them as, or um, who could benefit the most from your work?
I think anybody could.
Mhm.
But I think the ones that really gravitate towards it are those people that really are awake and aware
Mhm.
and want to be better, want to
Yeah.
feel better, want to do better, and are works in progress. You know, to me, I think this is why we're here. This is why we have this life, is to be better, to do better. I put out March newsletter today, and it's about generational trauma. And
Mhm.
I think about that too, and how our traumas and how we think and how we look at life a lot of times resonated from past generations that came down.
Mhm.
And we have opportunity in our life to change those habits and patterns. I witnessed my father do that. He was raised in a very abusive household, and he was the most compassionate, loving person that I've ever known. And he made that conscious choice to shift things in his life. And by doing that, it shifted how I raised my children. And it's going to shift generations to come. So when you were talking about doing it for others, it absolutely, even for those who are yet to be born.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, what would be your advice? Because we are experiencing rapid shifts in consciousness at an individual level and a collective level.
Yes.
What would be your advice for someone to navigate these times with more ease and grace?
I'd like to remind them that our brains do not look for happiness. Our brain's job is to be safe. It is not to be happy. So when you're thinking about a certain situation, ask yourself, am I safe? Am I safe? Is the story I'm telling myself really true? Or is it my brain trying to keep me safe?
Yeah, yeah, I love that you bring that up. That's a component of work that I support people around as well, is really differentiating between the soul's guidance and your intuition, versus the ego mind, right? And I think
Right.
one of the easiest ways to tell the difference, if you're kind of new to diving into that, for lack of a better way to put it, is that the ego mind will produce fear-based thoughts, and as you said, thoughts that want to keep us safe or playing small, where the intuitive voice will always be guided, or guiding us, I should say, toward expansion.
Yes, and it shows the bigger picture. And I think we can get caught up in the minutia and the details and in the moment instead of the bigger picture. That this moment might be very uncomfortable. It might be very difficult, but in the long run, the outcome is very different. It's the way nature works. It's the death, the rebirth,
Yes.
that caterpillar and the cocoon.
Yes, absolutely. Mary, what else? I'd love to just have you share if there's anything else that you're feeling guided to bring forward.
No, I guess I would just really like to encourage people to know that there are tools out there, that tools are being developed, and we do have tools when you're feeling stuck, or when you're feeling like there's an energy that does not serve you anymore, that's holding you back from living your best life, from living whatever life you choose, that there are ways to address them and to shift that energy. So RISE is one of them, but there are also others out there. So don't feel stuck, don't feel alone, reach out.
Yeah, and I love that you bring that up, because that's so common too, is another programming or conditioning, if you will, is that vulnerability and openness is a weakness. And it's actually the opposite of that. That is true. And so while tuning into our intuition does serve us, and that's something that we want to be tapped into, we do have blind spots. It's kind of like we don't know what we don't know. And if we're not where we want to be, it's, always beneficial to reach out for someone for support, but someone who's capable of supporting us, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Because
absolutely.
Sometimes, and this is another thing around programming, right? Is we think because someone's our friend, or someone is our relative, could be a sibling, a parent, or whatever, that because of that label, that automatically they're capable of holding space for us. And sometimes that's the case, but sometimes that's not always the case, right? So it's important to surround yourself with people who are like-minded.
Yes. I help people find other therapists in other areas to work with. And that's something I always bring up with them, is that if you meet with someone and you're not clicking, move on. If you're not feeling support, if you're not meshing, we're energetic beings. We don't all, mesh. So it's finding the right person and the right modality to really help clear things.
Yes, so true. Not everyone is for everyone.
No, and that's okay. That's okay. That's why we have choice. That's why we have a lot of different modalities out there. That's why we have a lot of different types of helpers in different ways. Sometimes you can sit and have a cup of coffee with someone and get a lot from that as well.
That's true too. So, yes, absolutely. I think, going back to what you said, it's about that energetic resonance.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Mary, I'd love to talk a little bit more about your service offerings, because we did talk about your work earlier in the conversation, but I'd love for you to just share more about how people can get in touch with you directly, and also how people, the different ways that people can learn more about your work and working with you.
Yes, well, probably the best way to get a hold of me and the best way to learn about me is through the website risehypnoticmeditation.com. And on there, I have videos about why RISE works and how it works, and also RISE for a few different things. There's one for RISE for guilt, RISE for sleep, RISE for peace, a few things like that that you can listen to and, know what's going on. I also often offer workshops. There's a 3-hour workshop, and you learn the steps to RISE. You learn how to use it, what to use it for, and then how to individualize the practice for yourself, like you do your meditation practice. Usually your meditation practice is the same place, you sit in the same position, you have the same smells. It has a way of reinforcing the work so that when you sit down, your body knows, okay, it's time to do our hypnotic meditation, or it's time to do our meditation. So it's also helping to individualize it for your best success. So it is 4 parts. RISE is the acronym. So it's also very simple and adaptable. So you can use the same program, the same 4 steps to address whatever really you want to address. It's great for emotional well-being, for physical well-being. It's also really good for peak performance. If, usually what stops our peak performance is, the fear and the doubt and things like that kind of work in. And so there's ways you can address, your favorite sport as well and go a little bit further in that. So it's for addressing things we'd like to move and get rid of, but it's also for bolstering and making larger those things that we'd like to have more of in our life, or be more competent at, or more fulfilled in.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And yes, this is what I was thinking. I'm looking at your notes here and your book.
Yes, there's also the book. It just
Yes.
came out about 10 days ago on Amazon. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes.
And so the book has it all. It is the 4 steps. It is what you can use it for. It is how to do it. There's also places where you can write about, your own body and your own process and what you'd like to address. And then in the back, there's 30 different meditations for different things. So there's RISE for cell phone use, RISE for weight loss, RISE for sleep, RISE for stress, RISE for surgery, for self-esteem, for grief, for stage fright, for anger. So those are just a few of the suggestions. But it's really a practice to individualize so that you can do it every day, if you choose, or as you need it. I've done it in a public bathroom when I got triggered in a restaurant once, and kind of went back to the bathroom and had a minute, just to gather myself. And so it's very quick, easy, and adaptable. And I made it because I'd like it for everyone to feel that it's something that they can do, and that they have a tool for themselves, for their best life.
Yeah, setting yourself up for success. Imagine that. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Mary, thank you so much for coming on to the show today, and just for shining your light out in the world. And the work that you do is so, so needed. So thank you.
Thank you. Grateful.
Thank you for listening to the Awaken on Purpose podcast. Please visit me and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts or at awakenonpurpose.com so you never miss an episode. To learn more about how you can embody new levels of expansion in your purpose and mission as a visionary leader and way shower, visit me at jenniferspore.com.